All right, the latest news break coming in at this juncture, coming in terms of a response by India amidst escalating West Asia war. Centre's assurance has now come in. Government sources have told us that there is a surety where LPG supply is concerned. We are not facing any shortage anytime soon. India has enough supply of LPG. Household, do not panic. Indian refineries have imposed a 25-day waiting period to curb hoarding. India is scouting for LPG in the market, exploring Algeria, Australia, Canada, Norway, and more where LPG supply is concerned. While India might just get 20% of its crude from the Strait of Hormuz, but 80% of its LPG passes through the Strait of Hormuz, which remains shut. I want to bring in Siddharth Zarabi and our other guest, Siddharth Zarabi, Group Editor, Business Today, as well as Surjit Bhalla, former Executive Director, IMF economist, author. We'll also be joined from New York City by Peter Cardello, Chief Market Economist, Spartan Capital Securities. But first up, Siddharth, take us through this news break because, the imperative, the onus also now on the dispensation, on the government to allay all fears of a possible shortage. The ramifications of it already being seen in our neighbor countries like a Pakistan or a Bangladesh. Even in India, there is a sense of insecurity where supply of LPG and crude is concerned.
Well, that's why perhaps the government has moved ahead of time really to bring in this period of booking and spread it out, because there were some reports of people going ahead and fearing the worst and hoarding, and there are no grounds really at this stage, because remember, there have been some cuts for industrial users. As far as LPG is concerned, government sources saying that efforts are being made to get other supplies, and tender has also been floated for more gas by the public sector entity concerned in this regard, and those supplies have been sought from 15th to 25th of March. Gas clearly seems to have become a worry, but from all accounts, enough planning is being done. The larger piece of the issue really is what is happening to global crude prices, and Preeti, even as we speak, we are waiting for clarity from the G7 finance ministers who began a meeting some time ago, which is supposed to deliberate on the release of perhaps up to 400 million barrels from their strategic crude oil reserves. And that news alone, just this news of a meeting being held to discuss this and not the decision, led to a dip by almost $12 to the barrel. So the peak price that we saw of $120 several hours ago has softened a bit, but we'll have to wait for the finality on that. But coming back to India, because that is really where our focus is, the other big headline at this stage is that government sources and concerned officials are saying there is no plan to increase petrol and diesel prices. And remember, petrol and diesel prices have been frozen now for the third year in running. The impact, whatever it may be, will be dealt with between the oil marketing companies and the government of India. So two separate concerns, and both being addressed in their own way.
We've already seen, Siddharth, you're right, where oil is concerned, but where gas is concerned, we've already seen a rise and an uptick in terms of the price of LPG. If we see the war continue the way it is, in an area of hyper war mongering, if you need to allay fears, which the government constantly steps in to do so. But having said that, what are the scenarios that we are looking at?
Well, this is a scenario, frankly, that no one had planned for, not in India, but anywhere, including the United States, which has basically instigated this. President Donald Trump has kind of told his voters that some pain may be worth it, but there are clearly two scenarios that we are staring at. We have seen a doubling in crude oil prices, and a couple of months back, no one was even talking about that. That doubling from 60 to 120, and there are some reports and suggestions, and we could call them fears at this stage, that it could even go to 150 to 200. Let's not get into the finality, but final numbers, but no one really knows. But clearly, this is a scenario that has not been anticipated, and this could have second round, third round impacts, including because of the unique nature of this crisis, the Strait of Hormuz is blocked. So remember, production hasn't fallen. Countries have not decided to stop production. It is just transport of crude oil that has stopped. And as a result, the oil wells, the capacity to produce is being tapered off gradually because the storages are now overflowing. So it's a very unique kind of crisis which the world has not seen. And therefore, Preeti, concerns around fertilizers, for example, again, there is a very high import dependence that India has. Concerns around certain other chemicals, sulfur, for example, those will pan out. So at this stage, I would say that this war is no longer about who is beating whom. I think this is a war which is around oil and oil prices, and the ripple effects would be felt far beyond the territories, and the unfortunate people on whom those missiles and bombs and drones fall would be felt all across the world. Remember, in the United States alone, so far, there has been almost a 20% increase in pump prices. Our consumers have been insulated by the government of India, but that's not true for the United States, Preeti.
Well, we've already increased 60 rupees where LPG is concerned, but yes, you are right. Where oil is concerned, there has been a cap, and the government constantly assuring there is going to be no rise. There is an economic cost to all of this. We are already feeling it even in our exports.